I read online that someone compared this movie to La La Land meeting Grand Theft Auto, and I do agree with that, but I think it's more La La Land meets Drive. Baby Driver is Edgar Wright's newest film starring Ansel Elgort, Kevin Spacey, Lily James, John Hamm, Jamie Foxx, and Eiza Gonzalez. The movie is about this young getaway driver named Baby, played by Ansel Elgort, and the reason he drives for these criminals is because of something he did when he was younger to Kevin Spacey, so he now owes him. He has tinnitus because of an accident he got into when he was younger, and as a result, he is always wearing headphones and listening to music. He wants to get out of this life of crime, especially after falling for Lily James's character, but things don't exactly work out the way he wants it to. Baby Driver was my third most anticipated movie for 2017. Edgar Wright is one of my all-time favorite directors, and I could not wait for this movie. I had the opportunity to go to an advanced screening where Edgar Wright gave a Q&A right afterwards, and that was just an amazing experience. And I had very high expectations for this movie because Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy are some of my favorite movies. I think they're all fantastic. And luckily, Baby Driver definitely holds up to my expectations. This movie proves how talented of a director and writer Edgar Wright is. He's just such a different and unique director that we don't really see nowadays. He's very creative, and the way he approaches action and all these stunts is just awesome. The robberies and all of the car chase scenes were some of the best I've seen in recent years, and they were just so thrilling and fun to watch. One of the most important elements of this movie is the killer soundtrack. The music is essentially like another character in this movie because it's so one-on-one with the film. Before even watching the movie, I already knew that the soundtrack was 35 songs, and I'll admit that I was a little bit worried because I was afraid that all of these songs would be a bit jarring, kind of like Suicide Squad, where it's just song after song after song. But I'm very happy to say that it did not feel like that at all. When you give the music a purpose because of Baby's tinnitus, it made it seem very natural and part of the movie. And as a result, all of the song choices were perfect and they were so well integrated into the film that I can't imagine what it would be like to watch this movie without that ginormous soundtrack. The film is literally driven by the soundtrack, pun entirely intended. I only knew about 3 or 4 of the songs, and while the soundtrack is very eclectic and not necessarily the music I would listen to in my own free time, I think all of the music was perfect for the film and for each scene and part in the film. There are 2 things in particular that I really loved about the usage of music in this movie. The first thing is that I loved that the music would be in sync with the action of the film. This has sort of become an Edgar Wright trademark. He's used it in other movies such as Shaun of the Dead, and I think it's such a brilliant thing to do because it kind of gets you more into the action and the scene, and I think having the music perfectly in sync with the action is just such an amazing thing to behold because having to direct all of this action to the music must have been so difficult. I did hear that the screenplay was written around the soundtrack, and I feel like that's just such a unique thing. The second thing that I loved about the music was that it was all diegetic, meaning it's all music that Baby is listening to. The whole film is built around Baby's perspective, and I think that was a really smart thing to do, and there would be really small things where he would pass the headphone to someone else, and then the music would decrease a bit in volume, and then when he would put it back into his headphones, it would go back up. And it was small things like that that just really added a lot to the movie. Speaking of Baby, Ansel Elgort did a fantastic job playing the titular character, and the entire cast was just perfect for this movie. At the Q&A, Edgar Wright said that he wrote John Hamm's character with John Hamm in mind, and John Hamm nailed the role, as did Kevin Spacey, Jamie Foxx, and just everyone. Ansel Elgort had these adorable moments, but he was also really badass. Jamie Foxx just knows how to play a batshit crazy character. Lily James and Eiza Gonzalez I had never seen in other movies before, but I thought both of them were excellent in their roles as well. And the bassist from Red Hot Chili Peppers, Flea, also is in this movie, and that was just awesome for me to see because I love Red Hot Chili Peppers. One funny thing that Edgar Wright mentioned during the Q&A is that every time there was a shot of Jamie Foxx and Kevin Spacey, he would turn to his cinematographer and go, "Double Oscar shot," and I think that's just hilarious. Another thing I liked about this movie is that it didn't follow these cliches that I was kind of expecting it to, so that was something I really respect about Edgar Wright. Now, while I did love this movie, I do have a few problems with it. I thought that the first act was perfect, and the second act, which follows the romance between Baby and Lily James's character Deborah, was also good, but not as enticing as the first act. And for me, the problem with the romance is that it was very rushed. It wasn't that I didn't find the romance to be believable, because I did. It was just that it was all very fast, and it was the kind of relationship that I didn't feel would survive all of the things that do happen in the movie. So as a result, some of it was a little bit unrealistic, but I think that's just because this film is kind of a style over substance kind of movie, and it's not the kind of film where they really want to develop the characters and the relationships as much as other films might. However, there were other relationships in the film that I thought were really well executed, and I ended up being more invested in those relationships than the romance, which was supposed to be the main one. The third act I thought was really awesome. It's a lot more action-packed, but it did start to drag a little bit by the end, and I kept thinking that the film would end and then it would keep going. By the time the ending did happen, I was very surprised by it, and I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about it. No spoilers, of course, but I think it's something that I have to sit on a little more just because I wasn't expecting that ending, and in the end, that might even be better than what I was expecting. Because again, it doesn't follow cliches. Overall though, I had an awesome time with Baby Driver. I think that it is a fantastic film and proves that Edgar Wright is one of the best working directors. I'm going to give Baby Driver an A- and buy it on Blu-ray because it is such a fun film, and I definitely plan to rewatch it in the near future. Plus, I want to maintain my Edgar Wright collection. I would probably rank it as my third favorite Edgar Wright film. I would put Scott Pilgrim vs. the World at number 1, hands down, easily one of my all-time favorite movies. And then Shaun of the Dead, then Baby Driver, then Hot Fuzz, and then The World's End. And that's not to say that I don't like Hot Fuzz or The World's End. I love both of those movies. It's just that I love the other ones so much, and overall, I think I would rewatch those ones more than the others. Thank you guys so much for watching my review. If you enjoyed it, please let me know how you felt about it in the comments below, and tell me what you think about Baby Driver once it's out in theaters. I'm also curious what your favorite Edgar Wright film is, because I love all of his movies as if it wasn't obvious enough, and I can't wait to see what he does in the future. That's it for this review. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more of my videos, and I'll see you in the next one.